For an Enneagram 4, it's that you believe that you were born broken, that there's something constantly missing about you. And by being more unique, you have filled the void and you'll be worth loving now. And my parents never once communicated to me that I was broken. And, it's not like I was coming home, my parents like, why can't you get this? Why don't you understand this?
Hey, Devon, thanks for joining me, man, on the Challenger podcast. Wonderful to have you here.
Dave, thanks so much for inviting me, man. I love Enneagram. I love overanalyzing things and being philosophical. So really appreciate the time.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I was a guest on your podcast, the
Mhm.
Imperfect Dads podcast, maybe almost a year ago now. So it's about time that we trade and invite you on to talk about the Enneagram a little bit more in depth than when we got into it on your podcast.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, no, thanks again for coming on. It's always fun to reach out to people. I'm still getting used to like the element of like messaging strangers and being like, hey, you seem like you would care about fatherhood and mental health and being a dad. Do you want to come talk about that for an hour with someone who you've never met before?
Right?
And thanks for being one of the people who's like, heck yeah, let's do this. Cause it's really encouraging to see how many people are looking for ways to connect, looking for ways to go deep and just explore the reality of being a dad in existence to some
Right.
extent.
Yeah, as I was preparing for the episode interview, I was listening to past episodes, and Matt Carney was a
Yeah.
previous podcast guest, and I had a little bit of imposter syndrome, which I know you know nothing about.
Whatever.
Like,
Yeah.
wait a second, like I'm a corporate guy, like I'm a personal trainer, a
Yeah.
jujitsu guy. What do I have to do with a podcast from Nashville that
Yeah.
interviews musicians?
Yeah.
And you shared it in a really unique way of, well, when one musician comes on, it kind of snowballs and it
It does.
labels you as the musician podcast about
Yep.
dads. And that made a lot of sense.
Yeah.
What would you say, like 50%, 60% of your guests have been well-known
Like
musicians?
pretty much all of them. I think we've now had, I think I've done over 150 interviews now, which is insane to realize, by the way. And I want to say at minimum 100 of them are musicians. Anywhere from like Grammy award winning musicians, mostly full time touring musicians, a lot of musicians where I never thought I'd have the chance to talk to them. Like I've been able to do like, yeah, cause like I'll have one person on and then like three of their friends will be like, heck yeah, I'll come on this podcast. And I'm like, so I've listened to you since I was 18 and
Right?
I'm going to deny that part of myself this entire interview. That's like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Just like Matt Carney was one of the chillest, coolest, easiest to talk to people ever. And I'm like, I've listened to your music for like 20 years. Like we're here talking about like taking your kids to a restaurant and having old women be like, oh, are you babysitting today? And I'm like, hey, we have this shared experience. Let's talk about it. So yeah, lots
Yeah,
of musicians.
I think the common thread unknown to me was just like musicians are fathers too.
Yeah, right.
And Matt Carney, for example, really just opened up, was super vulnerable about
Hmm.
touring and coming home from the road, really tired. And then I was interviewed a few weeks later and I'm like, what do I have to say?
Well, I mean, there's this one musician, painter, like guy who's like smart as can be named Will Johnson. He's based out of Texas. He plays with the 400 unit. Like you look up what all albums he's played on. He's been making music since like the late 90s, like prolific creator. And I talked to him about like the inertia of whenever you're in one mental space and your family is in one other mental space and how difficult it is to join or meet in the middle. And I'm like, that's to me, like the thing I always try to do with musicians is try to make it like, this is an every dad problem. If you've been at
Mm,
work, you've done a work trip, something like that, because them touring is a work trip. That's what it is. And then you come
mhm.
home, your wife, partner, whatever, has been taking care of the household. Your mental space is drastically different from each other. How long does it take to catch up? How long does it take for your inertia to match? Because that's what I think most of us are doing. If one of you, you're just trying to figure out how to share the same headspace as your partner and as your kids so you can connect and like live a life that you'd like to live and all that stuff.
No, I get it. And that's definitely not something that I would generally connect to. I don't
Hmm.
travel much for work, but
Yeah.
my partner occasionally travels. And, there's this transition period on the way out and on
Yeah.
the way back in.
Yeah.
Like, oh, okay, I don't know what that would be like for an extended period of time, like a musician. And then to talk about fatherhood with that long-term travel and then
Yeah.
coming home to an adjustment period. I can't even understand. I can't even imagine what that's like.
Yeah. Or like I had one guy on, his name is Jerry Pentecost, and he said he did a tour in like Tokyo or Japan, which is what, 13 hours ahead, something like that. And he said that was the best because he'd be like finishing up sound check. And whenever he would FaceTime his family, they'd be like getting home from like the time difference worked in his
Yeah.
favor. Whereas like, yeah,
Right.
if you do sound check at like 8 p.m., like you're not going to go or whatever. You're not going to FaceTime your kids who are about to go to bed and be like, hey, I know everyone's winding down for the day. Let me amp them up from 1,000 miles away on a phone call and then make you deal with like, don't do that. That's not going to help anyone.
Yeah, that's a pretty cool example.
Yeah.
Is that how the Imperfect Dad podcast came about? What was the impetus for that?
Yeah, of course. So it all started. I used to have a co host named Justin. He recently left the podcast. We used to be neighbors whenever I lived in Nashville. So he lived around the corner from me. Whenever I was having my third kid, he was having his first. And we would like meet at like pancake breakfasts, stuff around the neighborhood. And we just talk about life. And he'd be like, man, talking about this with you, this would make an awesome podcast. And I was like, so I did actually, after like the fifth time he asked, I was like, I actually studied audio engineering, so I could do all of this. And he was like, that's good, because I found out that the Nashville Dads was available. So I went ahead and registered it, got the Instagram, got everything. So
Awesome.
let's do it. So we did it. It was just him and I meeting up like every other week for the first year, basically being like, so how tired are you this week? Because we had newborns and little kids. And around the year mark, some people started reaching out to us, be like, hey, I would happily come on your podcast. And one of the guys he does a podcast called Nashville Restaurant Radio. And he was like, hey, I'm a dad. I do podcasts and I'm very involved in the Nashville scene. Can I come on? And we're like, yeah. So Justin's kitchen is great. And he was like, so I have a recording studio. And I was like, okay, we'll come to you. And about that time, we started using his studio. So we went from just Justin and I talking to a weekly guest. At some point in time, we were bi-weekly. Then we had enough people wanting to come on that I made us weekly. And I need to be better about understanding my limits and scheduling, because right now I've been releasing 2 episodes a week since like June or July, because people are interested in the podcast and they're interested in coming in. And I am just genuinely excited and still baffled that people want to talk about fatherhood this much, that I'm just being like, oh yeah, let's do this. Let's figure it out. Let's do it. And since I do so many touring musicians, like I did a call with the drummer who's the touring drummer for the Wallflowers, Mark Stepro. And it was like, hey, I can either do it now or in 2 months. And I'm like, let's do it now. Let's figure
Let's
this
do it
out.
now.
So,
Yeah.
but then I look up and I'm like, hey man, you just recorded 10 episodes in a month. And I'm like, oh, that's okay. I have to do 2 episodes a week, or else the person who I recorded this month, you won't hear their episode until like 3 months from now. So
Mm.
knowing your limits is hard. I'm not the best at it sometimes.
Yeah, I can relate to that because during COVID, I transitioned my personal training business to an online version, and I had a lot of what I thought was extra time, and the
Yeah.
podcast was really ramped up at that point. 1,000 downloads a month, an episode. Starting to
Nice.
get up
Yeah.
there, and then I just like 2 episodes a week is too many.
Because it is. Yeah.
And like you, if I recorded 2 a week, my guest would lose interest after it didn't come out for 6 to 8 weeks, and I get that. I totally get it, and so I really backed off. I slowed down. But what I understood is, like, through the lens of the Enneagram, is that word boundaries that you mentioned earlier. The 2, the 4, the 8. I think every Enneagram type has their own struggle with boundaries.
Yes. Yeah.
And for me, it showed up in too many episodes a week, taking
Mhm.
on too much, thinking I could handle it all. What
Yep.
was that like for you?
I am still in the process of figuring it out, honestly. My hope is that like that's the thing I do for 2026, in which I figure out how to calm it down. Because like I'm an Enneagram 4 with an extremely strong 5 wing. And I genuinely believe that like the most unique characteristic we have is how we interpret the world. Like that's the most beautiful thing ever. And so like whenever a dad is like, hey, I would love to share how I interpret the world, I'm like, oh yes, we need to get into that. Like it energizes me in a way in which I'm like, yeah, let's do this. But I'm just like, no, like, so then I think whenever something energizes you, you don't usually ask yourself the question, is this sustainable? Because you
Uh-huh.
focus on the energy, because you're like, oh, this is really cool. This is really great. I can't believe I get to talk to these people. And then, yeah, here I am looking up after doing 2 episodes a month since, I mean, we're recording this in November right now. I've been doing it, I think, since June. And I'm like, I've gotten a lot more followers. I've gotten a lot more listens. I've gotten a lot more attention for getting that much content out there. But then in the back of my head, I'm like, am I giving the content enough room to breathe? Because by the
Mm,
time you've listened, like if I release an episode on Monday and Thursday, have you found the episode on Monday and then you look up and suddenly you're like, oh, I need to listen to this. And then it's like, well, now there's an episode on Thursday. And then
that's
like
right. Yep.
I do this where I'm like, all right, I'm going to start a new show. How many episodes are there? There's 700. And I'm like, I'm not starting the show. The completionist in me is too great. I'm not going to do this. So I'm still figuring out the balance. I am hopeful. I think it mostly just means I need to be more selective in who I have on. And then that's more like I do have a lot of musicians on, but I really shouldn't have just musicians on because a lot more people are dads than just musicians. Yeah, figuring out what get should I start saying no thanks to more guests, but then that my mission is to share dad stories. So by saying no to it's figuring out how a no can be a yes or open up doors is like the hardest thing ever for me. And it's let
Right.
me know if you figure it out.
Right. No, I totally get it that podcasting early on was fairly addictive for me.
Yeah.
It's like, I love people. I love to
Hmm.
network. I love to extend my network. Podcasting was a great way to do it prior to COVID in the Denver area. And then once COVID hit, I'm like, well, it's limitless now.
Yeah.
It's $15 a month for a Zoom account. Let me
Yep.
talk to more people. And that was how I survived and thrived during COVID, other than just the one roommate I had living with me at the time. That wasn't enough human contact, no matter
Yeah.
how much I tried, right?
Yeah.
And your impetus to complete something. You were
Yeah.
talking about, starting a 700 episode podcast. You're like, I
I'm not doing
I
this.
either complete it or I don't start it. And I hear that from the 5 wing you have of the investigator. And as a challenger, when I'm at my worst, that's what I go to is like, what rabbit hole can I
Hmm.
obsess about so that I can somewhat distract myself from my own pain and my
Yes.
own hurt and my
Yeah.
own insecurities. Let me go down the rabbit hole of relationships and what part I play in them. And that was the impetus for the podcast over here. Is
Really
like, let
cool.
me go down this rabbit hole that ended up being a very generative experience for me.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean, because like it's no, like, yeah, the Wikipedia rabbit holes I'll go down sometimes just because I'm intrigued because there's a curiosity there, and also like I'm a May birthday, so I'm a Taurus, and I very much like have that energy of like either do it or I don't, and I don't consider myself stubborn because I'm stubborn. I consider myself slow moving. So like by the time I decide to do something, let's go, I'm doing it. But like it took us, we lived in Nashville for 18 years. I think my wife for like 10 years was like, hey, should we move to Denver? I really want to move out to Denver area. Like there are multiple factors. Like we'd have a kid, then we'd have another kid, then it was a pandemic, then we had another kid. But there are logical reasons for it. But she was like, yeah,
Huh?
let's pick up and go. And I was more like, I'm not sure yet. And she's like, what other data points do you need? She's an Enneagram 3, very action oriented, very success oriented.
I know what
And I
that's
would
like. Yep.
yes, and I was always very much just like, I'm not sure yet. But like the second we were like, hey, this move out to Denver, I was like, cool, this do everything. I got it. We're on board. So that's part of it for me also. And I read a book also about perfectionism that was really fascinating. I can't think of the name of it right now, but it listed that there's different types of perfectionism, and the one that I related to the most with was a procrastination perfectionism, in which I'll procrastinate because the idea of what it could be is so much more beautiful than the reality of actually doing it, and
Mm.
that does not work out well with my desire to be unique and be well researched at the same time. Because I can always find ways in which I should be more unique and more data I should find before I start something. So for me to start anything is like I just need someone to push me. And then once I do it, all good. But the months of ramping up to do it is a lot, as my wife would tell you.
I totally relate to just not starting it if it can't be great, right?
Yep.
Like, however, I can tend to be like a bull in a china shop where I'm just like, yeah, I'll slam through this wall
Yeah.
with as much effort and energy as it takes in order to get to the outcome,
Hmm.
but not necessarily setting aside time in the meantime to enjoy the process.
Yes.
So sometimes I take a long break, 6 months away from the podcast to refresh and just to reconnect with myself. But I think what you were sharing in there that was really profound is shoot,
You're good.
I lost it. I
I hate when
lost
that
it.
happens. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all good. So the delay in the time to move out to Denver,
Hmm.
some circumstantial things in there, having children makes a lot of sense. We don't want to move a newborn across the country
Not so
in the
much.
midst of a global pandemic,
I
right?
didn't. I felt confident in that delay. So yeah.
Yeah, and the other point that I wanted to ask you about is when selecting guests for the podcast, it's either a hell yes or let me get back to you. And something that my Enneagram 3 partner shared with me is let me check in with my schedule or let me check in with my resources. So
Yeah.
it's not my decision that's like holding me back.
Yeah.
It's what does my schedule tell me that I can do? Let me know your
Yeah, that's
thoughts on that.
helpful.
How does
Yeah,
that land with you?
that's very helpful. I think I feel like there's some other way that I've heard that phrase also of instead of asking yourself, can I do it? Asking yourself, do I have the energy to do it? Is basically
Mhm.
what that question is. Because like if right now you're like, hey man, can you drive up to Fort Collins sometime and hang out? And I'm like, yeah, I can absolutely figure that out. If you ask me, hey man, you've got 3 kids and a wife, does it make sense for you to drive up to Fort Collins? Be like, oh, it might take a bit, but yeah, I can figure it out, but it'll take me a while. But yeah, if you ask me, can you do something? The answer is yeah, I can do pretty much. I can do most things. And I also feel like the whole question of like, do you want to is like, well, if I say I don't want to, what is that? Well, I don't want to communicate negative things towards someone. Do you have the energy for it? Oh, no, it's pretty messy. I don't want to deal with it. So it's learning how to like put a pause. Cause yeah, if you ask me right now, man, let's do something, my initial reaction is always be like, yeah, I want to help people. I want to be helpful. I want to be loving. And to me, saying yes is a way to get there. And learning that saying, give me a second, let me think about this, actually gives a better version of yourself to show the love you're hoping to show. And like it also kind of lets you know who someone is. If someone's like, hey, can you help me with this? Just say, hey, I don't know yet. And they blow up in your face, like, oh, all right, cool. Good to know where you're at and how I need to approach in this relationship.
Yeah, and I get that struggle between saying yes to everything because you love others and saying yes to everything for yourself or saying no to certain things to protect that energy you're talking about. And when you first were talking about the Enneagram, I think you messaged me about it. You're like, saw so much of the 2 in me
Hmm.
versus the 4, and you got mistyped in that way.
I did. Yes. Yeah.
And I hear so much about the boundaries that had a lot to do with that. So was it you were just saying yes to everything, or were there other factors that you got
Yeah. Yeah.
mistyped so frequently?
I would say that so whenever I would take the test, I would test it and show up as a 2, which if you don't know, unhealthy 4 is a 2. So I think it was that because I worked a lot of like customer service jobs, which customer service jobs is like you just figure out how to help the person. You don't check in with yourself. It's your job to make other people happy the entire
Uh-huh.
time, in my
Yep.
opinion. And so like, yeah, even in my own personal life, I was more saying yes to stuff because I thought like I am also if you want to get into subtypes, a self-preservation for, which means you are okay with suffering. You aren't very expressive in how you feel like you're suffering. You're just like, nope, this is just life. It's what it is. I'll figure it out with the hopes that someone will look up and go, hey, have you been holding this the entire time? Have you been dealing with this the entire time? Which to some extent is a very like two characteristic of still being happy, still being positive as you're drowning on the inside because you want people to notice you.
Mm.
So yeah, no, I thought that was hilarious. Once I got into childhood wounds is whenever I realized I am actually a 4 and not a 2. To me, childhood wounds are more about like what validation are you looking for in the room? And like being helpful is good, but like being helpful is more like something I feel compelled to do to be like, I should be helpful. Or because if I'm not helpful, then I tend to think I'm being more selfish or self-focused. And
Mhm.
I don't like putting myself in a how does this benefit me headspace. I don't think that leads to a healthy version of me. But you also have to balance it with like you can't help everyone and you're not responsible to help everyone. So how do you deal with that, you know?
Yeah, and nor do we actually tend to operate from a fully altruistic point of view.
No, of
Like,
course not.
if I say yes to meeting up in person, I get something out of it too.
You do, and that's reality.
And it's not a bad thing either,
No.
you know? That's what relationships are all about is this mutual benefit and win, right? Either the feelings or the experience or the connection, whatever it is
Mhm.
that you seek. And interestingly enough, I resonate with the childhood wound, like being the pathway to learning your true self through the Enneagram. It's
Yeah.
like, okay, if my personality type gets locked in and solidified in childhood or early to late teen years, I can identify those moments where it's like, protected myself with this personality of
Mhm.
intensity, walls up, guarded, invulnerable for a reason. And it was to either be accepted, to be safe, to be loved, any of the other core wounds that we experience as kids that we
Yeah.
carry into our adulthood. And I would almost always guess it's family systems that give us that core wound, but you were sharing that it's something different for you. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, of course. Because so like, you know, the for an Enneagram 4, it's that you believe that you were born broken, that there's something constantly missing about you, and it's your and by being more unique, you have filled the void and you'll be worth loving now. And my parents never once communicated to me that I was broken. I didn't, it's not like I was coming home, my parents like, why can't you get this? Why don't you understand this? To me, the more I've researched it and deconstructed it, I do think the religious system I was brought up in more taught me that, or that's how I interpreted it, is how I'll say it. Because like I went to a Lutheran school, K through eighth grade, which to me, that main message was I think Martin Luther has a quote that's basically, we are the snow on the pile of manure. So we might be pretty on the inside, but we're shit on the inside. Beautiful things to tell another human. And I think that whole like Richard Rohr has this sentiment that is basically like every American pastor approaches it through the Western mindset of problem solving. So, what's the problem to solve in the Bible? You sinned, it must be corrected. We don't start in Genesis chapter 1 or 2, which is basically, man, there's chaos, there's disorder. God created beauty out of this. Look at all the beauty that's come with it. Most American pastors start with, you messed it all up, and now you are lucky that God came to solve everything by sending his son to die on the cross for you. How I interpreted that as a kid was, okay, so I've ruined everything. So my existence is dirty, it's tarnished, and everything I'm doing equals hell. And like, that doesn't give you the best self worth whenever you're a child to tell them to some extent who you are naturally means you deserve eternal damnation. So that's where if I think, why do you think everything you do is broken or wrong? It's like, oh, because religion told me everything I did was wrong. So that's why I believe that.
Yeah, that's that's the depth that I was looking for, right? Is
Good.
while your religious system was chosen by your family system,
Yeah.
your family didn't necessarily contribute to the wound directly. It was more of like an indirect result, right? And they have some responsibility because they chose
They
the
do.
Lutheran faith, and I can relate a lot because I grew up Lutheran as well. So
Cool.
it's just slightly adjacent to that brimstone and fire
Yeah.
Catholic rhetoric
Yep.
that you get in a Sunday sermon. And throughout the course of my experience, all through high school, up through high school, we had a pretty loving lead pastor, which was
Mhm.
great. A loud, boisterous, very kind and open-hearted type of a person.
Mhm.
And so I connected more with him than any of the other, like, you're broken, God is the only thing that can fix it
Correct. Yes.
kind of a narrative. And I cannot breeze past the fact that your unique perspective on the core wound and where it came from, plus the rabbit hole of deconstructing religion for you,
But yeah.
sets you apart as an Enneagram 4 with a 5 wing. I can't
Thank you.
pass that up.
Appreciate that. My ego is now up here, by the way, just seeing it's just compliment the uniqueness. And it's all just like, oh, hello. Yeah. What other information? I'm all yours. What do you need?
Sorry, not sorry, but like as the mirror of the Enneagram gets held up to you, it's a double-edged sword. Like that's my hubris, that's my
Yep.
ego.
Correct. Yes.
What's beneath that, and this is not a criticism at all. This is really
No,
just like
it's reality.
labeling how our personality protects us, fuels us, feeds the ego, etc.
Yeah.
How does
Yeah.
that land for you? How does
No,
that
I mean,
land?
it's accurate because like why do because yeah, growing up I was the kid who always listened to all the weird bands, always wanted to be the creative one, all that. And like now as an adult, I'm like, oh, it's because you just wanted people to notice you and tell you you're worth loving. So like, and I have to remind myself of that a lot of like, because if I'm in a group setting, I will, and I think everyone's already made the point that I want to make. I won't make the point because I'm like, oh, well, I don't feel unique enough. And then but now as a healthier version of myself, I'm like, that doesn't just because other people have said the same thing doesn't mean your interpretation of it is bad, man. And if anything, you're just going to reinforce a point that someone just said. But younger version of me
Mhm.
is like, oh, I'm not going to talk then because I don't feel like I stand out in this group. And it's like
Right.
you
Okay.
can still like you're still going to receive love, man. People are still going to know where your headspace is. And to me, getting older, that's the main thing. Is I would deny opportunities to speak because I didn't think I was unique enough, and then people wouldn't know my mental space. And now, as a healthier adult, I feel like I'm like, oh, I'm just going to let you know where I'm mentally because that way you know where I'm at, and then we both feel connected. And if it's unique and if it blah blah blah, it doesn't matter. Like
Mm.
I know what my initial reaction is how do I feel? How do I feel like I am unique to everyone else in this room? That's the validation I'm hoping for in every single room. And now I'm more just like, you're going to find it. So stop assuming it's not there. Stop assuming you're not going to get it. You naturally are a unique person, Devon. Your interpretations are going to be different than other people's. So just know that going into it. So that needs met. So now go care and love other people because you know your needs are met. So you'll be okay.
Yeah, that evolution of the self-awareness, right?
Yeah.
Of most people when they're children trade authenticity for approval,
Never did that.
right? You're almost refusing to
Oh, yeah.
be
Yep.
cast out because of your authenticity, right?
Correct.
Like,
Yes. Yep.
because my opinion is not unique, I won't fit in.
Yeah.
And that's backwards from what most people would say, but it exposes that wound that like the child is trying to deal with without the skills and ability
Yes.
to do so on their own,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
We're born in relationship, we're wounded in relationship, and we're healed in relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we all have our parts to own at any given point along the way.
Very much so. Yeah.
So I think I caught wind that you're a stay-at-home dad.
I am. Yeah. Yeah. I've been a stay-at-home parent since 2019. So I have 3 kids. I have a 9 and 7-year-old daughters and a 4-year-old son. Whenever my second kid turned 1, we were spending about as much as our mortgage in childcare. And honestly, what you kind of just said of like, I genuinely will not give up my authenticity. Like if it doesn't feel authentic to me, I'm gonna be a little bitch as I do it. That's just reality and what I've come to accept. So it's always worked out in jobs that like my wife, who is a 3, success oriented, will mold her personality to get more success. Is like she's always been better at jobs than I have been. So a full year of basically paying a second mortgage for someone else to watch our kids. And when your kid is that young, they're sick constantly because they're teething, they have fever, blah, blah, blah. And it was like, so why, after a while, we're like, why am I still working? Like, this doesn't make any
Mm,
sense.
yeah.
So yeah, since 2019, I've stayed home. I do think me being a stay-at-home parent is what motivated us to have a third kid because we knew we wouldn't have daycare costs. My wife has almost always worked remotely, so I was like, okay, so our reality will be we'll have a newborn at home. I'll bring him in whenever he wants to nurse or feed, which works out for both of us, and then I'll go hang out with him in the other room, so neither of us feel disconnected from our child, and all the stress we had for our first 2 kids isn't there. Yeah,
Mm,
okay, we should probably we'll figure it out financially, we'll figure all that stuff out, but like, why would we not do this? So no, it's been great. But also for us to move from Nashville to Denver, since my wife works remotely, it was just kind of like, all right, that was also part of the tension was like figuring out why are we doing this move? Well, it's not for a job, so it's for you then. Okay, is that something I'm comfortable with yet? Because I do think it is a different energy. Like if my wife or I would have gotten a job out here, everyone's like, oh, that's fine. That's cool. You're moving for work. But if you're like, why are you doing this? Because I want to is a
uh-huh.
different, is something I had to learn to be comfortable with. To be like, I'm doing this because I want to, because I want this adventure. I want to try this out. As opposed to like, hey, you've lived here for 18 years. Why are you uprooting everything? Why are you doing all this? It's like, because I want to. It took me a while to get comfortable with that answer for some reason.
Sure. Yeah, from what I heard, it was about 10 years.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. 10 years. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Me being like, oh, but do I really want it? Because then I would overanalyze. I would do everything else. And then I'd be a Taurus and drag my feet on the analysis. So yeah, it's great. It's great to be self-aware and realize in which ways you're being obnoxious.
Right. A Taurus plus a 5 wing, that's a double-edged sword
It's
in
great.
addition to the other one, you know?
Yeah.
And, the reflection that I received from the Enneagram, you mentioned a 4 at their worst is a lot like the worst version of a 2,
Mhm.
and an 8 at their best is a lot like the 4 at their best.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, because they go through the pathway of growth to a 2, but when the
Hmm.
2 is at their best, then they resemble a 4 a lot. And for my own curiosity, what does the best version of a 4 look like so that I know what to aspire for? Aspire
To
to.
me, yeah, 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 yeah. To me, it's whenever, because like also this goes into being a self-preservation for is I am not really like overly expressive with my emotions. Like whenever I first read about the four, it's like you're kind of off the you react to everything, everything's big, you have big reactions. And I'm like,
Some
I
drama, sure.
I'm not a drama person in any way. I am low key, I am pretty chill, I'm sarcastic as can be, but like you will rarely talk to me. I have 3 kids. I spend the entire summers at home with 3 kids. And if you're like, how's it going? I'm like, I don't know, went to the zoo, went here. And I know other people, no judgment meant, who are like, everything's awful, everything's on fire. And I'm like, oh, I don't know. Like it's all good. So like that took me a while to like self-preservation for helped me a lot because it made me realize that like I still have all these characteristics. Because like the main thing for like a healthy four is like, oh, you don't react so much. Your equanimity, I think, is like the word that's normally used for it. And like which I think just means you're even keeled. And I'm always even keeled. So that confused me a bit whenever I learned about fours. To me, what I feel like the healthiest version of myself is whenever I can be focused on the fact that everyone has their own unique perspective to bring to a situation, and how can I posture myself in a way in which they feel safe and comfortable to express that? And how do I do that and so that they can be more in tune with who they are? Because I have a lot of smugness to me, I have a lot of elitism to me, and that's not my favorite part of me, but it's part of me, and I need to always fight against that aspect of my shadow.
Right. Right. Okay.
So that to me, that's it. It's just like, hey, you're feeling something in this moment, and it's okay to talk about it. And also, like, how you express how you're feeling, how do I put myself in a posture in which that doesn't change me? Because if you're like, I'm really angry today, and suddenly I get bristled because I don't want your anger to come towards me, you're not going to express yourself. You're going to express yourself differently because now you have to factor
Hmm.
in how what you're saying is affecting me. So if I can be centered enough in which like I can talk to people and what they say doesn't, I know I'm good, I guess, or I'm centered, then I feel like that's really healthy because I do understand complex emotions. I do love grief. Like I'm fascinated by grief and like sadness and stuff. And I know a lot of people lean out of it. And I'm like, no, let's talk about it. This is really fascinating. Do you feel broken? Let's talk about it. It's beautiful to
Mm,
be broken because you can be rebuilt
mm.
and you're still worthy of love. So this, how do I make you acknowledge what you're feeling with the full knowledge that you are still loved and you're still good is my hope as like a healthy version of myself. How do I get in tune with that energy?
Yeah. Yeah. That makes so much sense that a self-preservation four would withdraw and kind of close down if somebody
Yeah.
else has a big emotion.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense to me. And, grief is a very powerful feeling.
Yeah.
And your approach to it is like, let's talk about it. Can help can help move through the grief that much faster. When we hold on to things as fathers, or when we hold on to things as an 8 and a 4, it can tend to consume us,
Yeah. It can.
right?
Yeah.
Like,
Or a
it
lot of
takes up.
navel gazing.
Say that again?
Navel gazing, I think is like the term for it, where you're just kind of looking down at yourself the entire time. Because like younger version of me would be obsessed with an emotion, obsessed with a feeling. And it's just like, what do you do? I just ignored my entire world for a day because I was so fascinated by figuring out a feeling that it's just like, well, you didn't then interact with anyone. You didn't have community for an entire day because you're so obsessed with your ability to understand yourself. And it's good to understand yourself, but don't do it at the expense of other people, I guess.
Now I understand a little bit better about why the 4 is known as, like, the emo personality type on the
Pretty much.
Enneagram.
Yeah. Yep.
Old friend of mine, 20 years worth of a friendship, is a 4, has been a
Yeah.
guest on the podcast,
Yeah.
came in and talked about that experience of leaning into music when they're not feeling great. And like, all of that being said, the best version of yourself, the worst version of yourself, and a stay-at-home parent, how do you see that leadership in the household?
Yeah, it's my wife and I focus a lot on whenever a kid has a big reaction, has a big emotion, how do we make them feel validated in that moment? Which is extremely hard to do some days. Whenever my middle child has a big, like the other night, we were choosing a movie and she had said that one of the other kids agreed to a movie, but they didn't understand, blah, 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 some sibling fight. And she was like, but I really want to watch it. In that moment, I'd be like, stop it. It's like what my gut says is like, stop it. But it's be like, hey, listen, we're all good. We're going to figure out a movie together. And if that's not the movie we choose, we'll just choose at a different time. Like very pragmatic, very logical as I approach it. So like,
Mm,
I want to, whenever my kid has an initial reaction, I think a lot of people our age and our generation, we're told, how dare you have that reaction? How dare you have that emotion? Is a
yeah.
lot of wound a lot of us carry. And my hope is that we are creating an environment that whenever a kid has a big reaction, like, hey, walk me through that. How did you get like, and also I'm asking a 7-year-old to understand their emotions when most 38 and 37-year-olds don't understand their emotions. So that's my hope as a stay-at-home dad is to be physically and mentally available that whenever our kid has a big moment or what feels like a heavy moment to allow them to explore how they interpret it. And I know that's probably just trying to undo generational wounds of some sort because I do know a lot of people in which your interpretation wasn't factored in. So
Yeah, absolutely.
and then there's like my grandpa moved a lot whenever they were growing up. And she's told me before, like, no, if we had to move, we had to move. It didn't matter. I get it. If I was like, but I've got good friends here, my dad didn't care because he was trying to figure out how to provide for us, get a job, and hold down a job. And now I'm like, whenever we moved from Nashville to Denver, we told them at like the start of the school year, hey guys, this is what we're planning on doing. So we could talk about it for the full year as they went through every range of emotion. And so it wasn't just something like, we're doing this. I don't care what you think, we're out. So that's my hope.
And that's a big ask of
Yeah.
ourselves, right?
Yeah.
Is to stay regulated in every situation, to stay grounded
God. Yeah.
with equanimity is what you were talking about earlier
Yep.
of like, I define equanimity as self-acceptance and self-improvement in the same moment.
Yeah.
Just being present, being in the flow of life. But, all of those wounds start to show up and we want to control the outcome. We want to control
Yep.
our experience. We want to control the experience of other people. So my last question for you today, Devin, is like the big one. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
how do expectations of ourselves and others, you can use this moving as an example. How do those expectations of ourselves and others set us up for hurt, loneliness, heartbreak, disappointment,
Yeah.
grief?
Yeah. I love the discussion of expectations because it is what I try to be in tune with the most with my own self, especially in relation to like connection. Like I always think to myself, like, it's beautiful to want connection. Just be aware of if the person you want to connect with can give it to you in that moment. Cause like if, say, like my wife just got back from a long work trip, and if I want like what connection she's able to give, because she's got off like she was just gone for 5 or 6 days. Our kids want to connect with her. I want to connect with her. Like, be realistic about what type of, and she also wants to connect with us. Like it's all, I always try to acknowledge the good intentions that are present. Everyone wants to connect with each other. How the heck do we get here? So like, just be aware of what connection you're looking for and if it's realistic. Like other easy example, if I really want to have like a good connection with a male friend and I expect to find that at the bus stop. Like if I'm going to the bus stop and it's like, I really want a deep conversation. It's like, you're talking to a dad who's about to run off to work and he's hoping his kid gets on the bus. This isn't the time in which you say a deeply intimate personal moment and they go, you are accepted and you are loved. So take
Not,
that.
not a chance for that.
It's
Yeah.
not going to happen.
Yeah.
But are there times whenever you walk into an everyday situation and you're like, oh man, my loneliness is winning today. My deficits are winning today. I need to be reminded that I'm more than my loneliness and my deficits. I do. And then it's like I think I've become more pragmatic as I've gotten older and being like, okay, cool. You're not going to find that in the 5 minute interaction in the bus stop. Do you have a friend you can text? Do you have a friend you can just message me like, hey man, I'm having a weird day in which I don't trust why I exist on this earth. Can you just like, can we just connect? And you don't even have to tell me you're beautiful. You don't even have to I need human connection today. Can you offer today? And like,
Yeah.
and if they say, I don't have time today, be like, cool. When can you, you know? I think the discussion of expectations and connection is one that's fascinating to me, but it also takes constant knowledge of your mental space. And I think what's exhausting to me about expectations is you usually don't know you have them until they've been failed. Because I don't go into a situation being like, here's my expectation of Dave. Like, I didn't go into this conversation being like, here's my expectation of an interview with Dave, but I have one. I have an
Sure.
expectation. Oh,
Yeah, and if you deny that, that's to deny
it's
that part of yourself.
exactly, and it's just not accurate. Whenever I come home, like I did a quick day trip to Nashville last weekend to go watch their MLS team because Messi was playing, and like for me to be like, who are you going to be when you get home? No, have no expectations of yourself. No, man, you're going to get home at like 11 p.m. on a Sunday night. Like you're going to be tired. The next day you're going to be tired. Like just
Yeah.
be honest with yourself, who you are. And to me, expectations is more just a discussion of like, can you keep it real? Can you be real with who you are in this moment? And can you express
Right.
it? Because that's the other thing,
Right.
and learning how to express what unspoken expectations you had of a moment. What the
Hmm.
that's fun. That's a good time.
Setting ourselves up for not a lot of success, but more so
Yeah.
maybe some failure.
Yeah.
And we moved recently too from North Denver to Fort
Yeah.
Collins. I didn't know anybody in the area. I had a few connections on social media or whatever in the area, and changing everything, changing jujitsu schools,
Yeah.
changing where we live, changing how long it takes to see family and friends. That's
Yeah.
challenging, no
Hmm.
matter how far it is.
Yeah.
Nashville to Denver. It would make a lot of sense that like craving that connection and setting ourselves up for disappointment or for being overjoyed if we get it. And I recall it probably took like 9 months at the jujitsu school to have a conversation that was spontaneous and authentic
Yeah.
after class.
Yeah.
Typically, it's like you're connecting on a superficial level before and after class. And during the sparring, it's a very physically intimate thing. Like you have to
Yeah. Yeah.
trust your partner fully, right? And I didn't know this teammate very well. I'd only seen him a couple of times, really good, a brown belt just like myself. And post sparring in the locker room, hey man, what do you do for work? And then I got to hear, I'm going through a divorce. We have two
Yeah.
dogs. I'm moving
Yeah.
into an apartment. And I was like, that sometimes would feel like an overshare.
Yeah.
But in the moment, it was like, that was the connection I was craving after
Yeah.
moving an hour away from family and friends. I'm like, oh, I like this person. This person was honest with me.
Yeah.
I appreciate that. And it would be a different story if I didn't beat him all the time in sparring.
If you're losing to him, you are an 8. Look at you.
I think that's like the full encompassing process
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
of like, how does the 4 seek out connection? How does the 8 seek out connection? And how do we manage our expectations along the way?
Yeah. Yeah. I agree. And like, also though, like, I want to also note that like, with authenticity, I don't need your authenticity to line up with mine. Like, I don't need you to like the same bands as me. I don't need you to like be the same person as me. I just want to know what's really going on with you. And like, that's what I'm always hoping for. That's like the honest moment that energizes me. So yeah, it's like, if someone's like, hey, I think I'm going to get divorced. Then it's like, I haven't been divorced. I haven't gone through that. I don't need to have that experience to understand how heartbreaking it is. We're like, oh man, you're telling me some real shit. Are you
Hmm.
like, do you need a hug? Like what? Like, thank you for I feel this way about the podcast a lot. Anyone who's willing to trust me with their story, I have so much respect for that because I'm a person, I'm here, whatever. And if you trust me, you've shown me a sign of respect to talk to me and to share your story with me. And that deserves to be respected. And
Yeah, well
regardless if I
said.
agree with your political views, who you are as a person or anything like that, you still took the time to share an aspect of yourself with me. I respect, like, once again, freaking 4, I respect expression so much that I want to make sure that I want you to have a positive experience with expressing yourself because it's so freaking crucial to express yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. If anybody was looking for a definition of empathy, I think that was it in real time.
Pretty
So,
much.
so
I
thank you
don't,
very much for
of
joining me,
course.
Devin. If people want to check out the podcast, what's the best way for them to do that?
Yep, yep, yep. I'm most active on Instagram, so the Imperfect Dads podcast. I also have done TikTok stuff, the Imperfect Dads podcast, which you'll see me play more music stuff on there. I feel like I'll do random clips of me like trying to play guitar while my 4-year-old son like hits the bass with like a bunch of magnetiles or something like that. And then the podcast is anywhere you can find podcasts: Spotify, YouTube, Apple Podcasts, all that stuff. So yeah, no, please check it out. I am trying to hold space for dads just to discuss what their life is like because I don't think dads get asked, how's it going? And that's the entire hope of the podcast is to have dads on, is be like, hey, Dave, how's it going today? And not have an agenda of what answer I want from you. I'm not looking for sound bites. I'm literally just like, hey, man, how's it going with your daughter this month? And that's it. That's the hope of the entire conversation.
Very cool, man. Yeah. Thanks again for joining me. And if you have any closing thoughts, what would you want to leave us with today?
Gosh, what would I leave you with today? I would leave it with, man, that you're worth loving and you're worth discovering and worth knowing. And that like understanding what roadblocks you hit every single day is extremely important. And I will say that the Enneagram made me very aware of what roadblocks I was hitting every single day that I thought were my personality. In reality, it was just self-doubt and lies I told myself were true. And Enneagram was a great way to unwrap a lot of lies I thought were true about myself.
Oh, man. Thank you for that. I
Yeah,
appreciate it.
of course.
Yep. Devin, thanks again.
Perfect.
You're welcome back anytime.
Awesome. Sweet. Thanks. I appreciate it, Dave. And let me know. It might take a month or so, but let me know when I can drive up to Fort Collins so we can hang out. All right.
Absolutely. Will do.
Perfect. Do you need anything else from me? Or are we all good?